actually go outside in these things?
What would you prefer? Yellow spandex?
The suit's too dark. The powers are nerfed. That's not how it happened in issue number 347. This movie ruined my childhood. If I had $1 for every time someone complained about a comic book movie not being comic accurate, I could probably fund my own Spider-Man film. And honestly, it would probably still make someone angry. Because here's the thing. Comic accuracy. It's the phrase that launches 1,000 internet debates. Fans cry out for it, studios promise it, and critics measure films against it. But what does comic accurate actually mean? And more importantly, should it even be the goal? Today, we're diving into why comic accuracy in movies is far more complicated than most people realize, and why obsessing over it might be completely missing the point of adaptations. First, we have to address the elephant in the room. Or the guy in spandex in the room. Movies and comics are not the same medium. Revolutionary concept, I know. But seriously, what works on an illustrated page does not automatically work when you put a real human being in front of a camera in the real world. In comics, you accept certain visual conventions instantly. Bright spandex? Sure. Enormous shoulder pads? Why not? A cape that can defy physics? Absolutely. The static nature of the medium, combined with the illustrated art style, creates a buffer between you and reality. Your brain accepts all of this because it's art. It's stylized. It exists in that beautiful space where you're not asking how or why. You're just vibing with it. But put an actor in a suit with comic accurate proportions, and suddenly that buffer disappears. You're watching a human being, someone with weight, texture, and presence, trying to exist in your reality. The suspension of disbelief required shoots through the roof. Suddenly, everyone in the theater is asking questions. Very uncomfortable questions. Like, why is that grown man wearing his underwear on the outside? Or, how does he turn his head in that thing? Or my personal favorite, is that nipples on the batsuit? Why would armor have nipples? Thanks for that one, Joel Schumacher. Really added to the realism. It wasn't until recent projects embraced a more comic booky comedic tone that we could even attempt such levels of comic accuracy. Context matters. Tone matters. A gritty, grounded film can't pull off the same visuals as a movie that's literally breaking the fourth wall and making jokes about the Fox universe. But seriously, this is why Christopher Nolan's Batman worked so well. He didn't try to make a comic-accurate suit. He made tactical armor that looked like something a billionaire with access to military technology might actually build if he decided to dress up as a bat and fight crime. And it worked because the film wasn't trying to be the comic. It was trying to be the best version of that story told in cinema. Look at these two images. Both of them are Batman. Both are canon. But if Robert Pattinson walked onto the screen wearing this while trying to hunt a serial killer, you wouldn't call it a masterpiece. You'd call it a Saturday Night Live sketch. And this brings me to my favorite argument. When people scream about accuracy, I have to ask, accurate to which writer? Superhero comics have been running for well over 90 years. 90 years of continuous publication. Hundreds of different writers, thousands of artists, multiple reboots, retcons, reimaginings, and definitive versions that all contradict each other. Characters aren't consistent in the source material, so expecting them to be consistent in movies is wild. Is the accurate Batman the detective from the Golden Age who occasionally used guns? The campy scientist who fought aliens in the 50s? The grim Avenger from the 80s who broke criminals' bones? The hyper-competent paranoid from the 2000s who had contingency plans to kill all his friends? Or the recent version who's one bad day away from becoming the villain himself? Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Congratulations, you've just made half the fan base angry. Pick a different one? You've just made the other half angry. There's no winning. Or do we talk about the power levels? In some comics, Superman is so powerful he can move planets, sneeze away solar systems, and basically function as a god who occasionally stops to help old ladies cross the street. But then in other storylines, he's struggling to lift buildings, or getting winded, or, and this is my favorite, getting beaten up by street-level thugs because the writer needed drama that week. So again, which Superman is quote-unquote accurate? The god, or the guy who struggles with heavy stuff? Because both exist in official DC canon, and they're about as consistent as my upload schedule. Green Lantern is even worse. In one comic, Hal Jordan is restructuring reality itself and fighting cosmic entities that existed before the universe was born. Absolute unit of a hero. In another comic, he gets knocked out by a guy with a wooden baseball bat because, and this is established canon, the ring doesn't work on wood. Wood! The magic space ring, powered by willpower itself, forged by immortal guardians at the center of the universe, is defeated by a number 2 pencil. And that's not even getting into the whole yellow weakness, which meant he could be defeated by a banana. And people wonder why they keep retconning Green Lantern. Comics have been playing fast and loose with continuity and characterization since basically forever. Comics invented the retcon. That's short for retroactive continuity, which is a fancy way of saying, we changed our minds about what happened and you're just going to have to deal with it. Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver were Magneto's kids. Then they weren't. Then they might be again, depending on which comic you're reading. Jean Grey died. Then she didn't. Then she died again. Then that wasn't really her. There's literally a joke in the comics community. Nobody stays dead except Bucky, Jason Todd, and Uncle Ben. 2 out of 3 of those characters came back. Uncle Ben is the only one who stays dead, and honestly at this point, just give it time. That's why comic accurate is a meaningless phrase. It's like going to a restaurant saying, make it taste accurate, without specifying accurate to what. Accurate to what, sir? The menu? Your childhood memory? That fever dream you had last week? But comics have actually embraced this chaos through the multiverse. Earth 616, Earth 1610, Earth Prime, Elseworlds, What Ifs, alternate timelines, pocket dimensions, the dark multiverse. There are officially infinite versions of every character. Infinite. Which means somewhere in the multiverse there's a Batman who's a literal bat, a Superman who's powered by kryptonite, and probably a Green Lantern whose ring works perfectly fine on wood but is unfortunately allergic to aluminum foil. The comics explicitly say, every version is valid. Every interpretation exists somewhere. So when fans demand comic accuracy in films, they're not demanding accuracy, they're demanding their favorite version. Which, spoiler alert, is probably someone else's least favorite version. Comic books are a niche hobby. A best-selling comic might move 100,000 units. A blockbuster movie needs to sell 50 million tickets just to break even. Movies cost about $200 million to make. To make that money back, and hopefully profit so they can make more movies, they can't just appeal to the hardcore fans who've read every issue since 1987, or the guy who knows the serial number of the pistol the Winter Soldier uses. They need to appeal to everyone. Your mom who's never read a comic. Your little cousin who just thinks the suits look cool. That guy on the date who's only there because his girlfriend likes Chris Hemsworth. The international markets where American comic books aren't part of the culture. If you make a movie too comic accurate, you alienate the general audience. You can't start a movie explaining the complexities of the Speed Force or the political socio-economics of Atlantis without putting half the theater to sleep.
Dude, like, oh my God, like, can we talk about, like, the political and economic state of the world right now?
Most people watching these movies have never read a comic book. And you know what? That's fine! That's actually the point! These movies are not just made for the established fan bases, but to turn these new viewers into fans. The MCU didn't become a multi-billion-dollar phenomenon by catering exclusively to comic readers. It succeeded by making movies that were accessible, entertaining, and emotionally resonant to people who thought Marvel was just a word meaning, wow, that's impressive. Guardians of the Galaxy is a perfect example. In the comics, these were C-list characters at best. The movie completely reimagined them, changed personalities, altered relationships, and created something that resonated with millions of people who'd never heard of them. And it worked. It worked because they weren't slavishly devoted to source material that most people had never read. Actually, in the comics, Star-Lord is much more serious and, yeah, no one cares. And when you demand rigid comic accuracy, you're essentially putting up a sign that says, you must be familiar with 60 years of continuity to enjoy this ride. And that's insane. These movies are a gateway. They're how new people discover these characters and then maybe go back and check out the comics. But you can't gatekeep the gateway. That's just bad business and worse for the fandom. Look, I want good adaptations too. I don't want them to butcher the spirit of the character. The best adaptations understand the essence of these characters, not the surface level details like whether the costume has yellow or orange stripes or whether the origin story matches issue number 1 exactly, but the deep core truth of what makes them compelling, what they represent, why they matter. Into the Spider-Verse is a masterclass in this. Is it comic accurate? Kind of. It pulls from multiple comic runs, creates original elements, changes details left and right, but it understands what Spider-Man means at a fundamental level. The responsibility, the idea that anyone can wear the mask, any gender, any race, any size, any dimension apparently. The balance of humor and heart, the relatability of a hero who struggles with the same stuff we do. Spider-Man 2 isn't 100% comic accurate. He has organic webs for crying out loud, but it still feels like Spider-Man. The Dark Knight trilogy changed almost everything from the comics. The villain's origins, the suit design, entire plot lines. It's barely recognizable compared to most Batman comics, but it understood Batman's core questions. What drives someone to do this? Can one person really make a difference? How far is too far? What's the line between justice and vengeance? These are the themes that have made Batman endure for 87 years across every medium. The movies explored them in ways that resonated with millions of people who'd never picked up a comic. Comic accuracy isn't bad. When elements can translate well, absolutely use them. The fan service hits different when you recognize a panel come to life, or hear a classic line delivered perfectly, or see a costume detail that makes you go, they included that? Those moments are special, they matter. They're part of what makes adaptations fun. But accuracy can't be the only measure of quality. And it definitely shouldn't be used as a weapon to attack movies, filmmakers, or, most importantly, the people who enjoy them. These characters are modern mythology. They're meant to be shared, reinterpreted, and enjoyed by everyone. Different cultures, different generations, different mediums, all bringing their own perspective while keeping the core of what makes these heroes matter. So maybe instead of asking, is this comic accurate? We should be asking, is this good? Does it understand the character? Does it tell a compelling story? Does it honor what makes this hero matter? Because at the end of the day, whether it's on a page or on a screen, if it makes you believe in heroes, if it makes you feel something, think about something, care about something, then it's doing its job. So what do you think? Am I completely off base here? Did I just commit YouTube suicide by saying comic accuracy isn't everything? Are you currently typing an angry comment about how I'm wrong and how my channel sucks? Try to keep it civil. And if you somehow made it through this entire video essay, hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives, opinions, and unnecessarily long rants about things I find interesting. And check out my last video. Peace!